Hola a todos, my name is Brenda Hernández and I am the producer of the MíraLA Podcast. We are currently on a little break as we prepare for the MíraLA Film Festival coming March 22nd at Hitcore Soundstage. Tickets will be on sale very soon. Now, if you're unavailable to, attend the festival in person, don't you worry. The festival will be available to stream online globally for the first time ever. And we'll share more details on that soon. Now, we're on this little break, but we got the amazing opportunity to interview a very special guest. She is the creator, writer, showrunner, and executive producer of Lopez vs. Lopez, Debby Wolfe. We want to thank Ricardo for making this possible, honestly, and we're just really excited to share this amazing interview with you all. Now we want to remind you to watch Lopez vs. Lopez Season 3 finale Friday, February 7th at 8:30 p.m. on NBC. And you can stream it on Peacock the following day. Now, without further ado, enjoy the show.
Hola, everybody. My name is Arianna Lemus. I am the MíraLA Podcast host, and today I am so excited. I get to be interviewing Debby Wolfe. She is the showrunner of Lopez vs. Lopez, and I am so excited for this opportunity. Thank you so much, Debby.
MíraLA. Yes, I'm happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, muchas gracias. So I know you are a busy lady, you are a girl boss, and you are empowering so many women, Latina women specifically. So I just want to jump right in. Lopez versus Lopez has resonated with so many people, and of course, particularly with the Latinic audiences. And as the show is approaching its season 3 finale, which congratulations, by the way, could you share what initially inspired its creation?
So this was created off of Mayan's TikTok. So Mayan Lopez had this TikTok she was doing over the pandemic where she was just, doing like funny skits and stuff. And one in particular, she was like clearing up some rumors about her dad, and she was like twerking upside down and just very open about her daddy issues. And I thought it was hilarious. I was also during the pandemic, I was doom scrolling, came across this TikTok, and I probably watched it like 20 times that night. And I actually had been working for Bruce Helford, who created the original George Lopez show. I was working for him on the Connors, and I emailed him at like 3 a.m. and I said, "This is a show. It's Mayan Lopez. It's her dad. It's like sort of the next iteration of the George Lopez show, where she's the one that has issues with him, whereas before it was his issues with his mother." So, and he agreed, and we kind of just took off from there and met with George and Mayan, and they had a story to tell about their estrangement and how during the pandemic, actually, they were like healing their relationship. So as we were writing, it was all coming from a very real place. And I think that the studio network saw that this was something that they had to see more of because it was so real and so relatable. And yeah, and then the show was born. And now we're here, season 3, 45 episodes.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I actually want to touch base on the representation and impact with the TV network because, historically it has lacked, Latino representation both in front and behind the camera. So my question to you is, how do you see Lopez versus Lopez contributing to this change?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm a Latina. My mom's from El Salvador, and it's always been a mission of mine to see my cultura like represented on screen. And so that's like my goal as a showrunner. I've been in rooms now for a decade, and I was always pitching projects with Latino families, and this one finally, hit and was made, and so I don't take that lightly, that we're like we are the only show in network television with a majority Latino cast. So what I do is I make sure that, I try to create opportunities for Latinos like behind the scenes, like on our crew and also in my room. We had last season we had like 10 Latino writers in the room, which was like really awesome. Because there's really like a shorthand with us and you know and Latinos from all backgrounds. Like we have Salvadorian representation, Mexican representation, Cuban representation. And so you know, I think that's very important because I want to train the next generation of Latino showrunners. Like that's like a goal of mine because there's really like not enough of us in power and there needs to be because once we're in power, we're going to hire our own. So I just like that's so important to me as a showrunner to you know further representation in Hollywood.
Yes, yeah, and thank you so much for bringing up, Central American identity and representation. It's really exciting to see a Salvadorian woman leading a major network TV show. And typically, Central Americans have often been overlooked in Hollywood. How has your identity shaped your storytelling, and what does it mean to you to represent Central Americans in the industry?
That's a great question. I think it shaped me because my mother is, you know, a very strong woman. She came to this country for, you know, better opportunities in life for her children. And, you know, I never took that for granted. I think like I have that immigrant work ethic. So when I came to Hollywood, I was like, I've got to make this happen. My mom came to this country for me to make this happen. So,
Mhm.
you know, I had like sort of that added layer of pressure to like to get it done. And I'm so thankful to her for being such a muse and inspiration. She's also so funny, and so is my family. Like they've been constantly, you know, an inspiration for me in my work. And I'm so proud of my culture. I'm so proud that I get to represent it. Like we made the character of Oscar, El Salvadorian, and he jokes about having a pupusa guy that he goes to regularly. So you know, I think, and it's true, like it's such a small country. Like I actually don't know any other Salvadorian writers. I wish I did. And I hope that, you know, if any listeners, Salvadorian writers out there, like we need you. There's got to be more of us, you know, and and when there's more of us, there'll be more representation.
Yeah, 100%. And to just kind of piggyback off the show's blending of real life struggles and humor, with family relationships and generational trauma and the culture identity, how do you personally balance the comedy with these deeper themes?
Yeah, I think that that just comes naturally to Latinos. Like I like to joke like the more oppressed you are, the funnier you are because you kind of have to laugh at it when you've gone through all the trauma and the rejection and the, you know, pushing down and then being told you're not good enough and you're not worth anything. You know, I think out of that comes a lot of humor, you know, just to cope as a coping mechanism. And so, you know, my family are some of the funniest people that I know, and it's just because we have to laugh at it, and also, you know, and the balance comes from time. I think, like, you know, after a while, after when you experience something painful, after some time, you're able to reflect on it and think about what's funny, what was funny about it. And Mayan Lopez and George Lopez has been doing that his whole career. He's been doing it for 30 years. He's been laughing at, you know, his painful upbringing, and he knows what's funny about it, and he's passed that on to Mayan. So I have these two muses that have are amazing collaborators, and together we've been able to find that balance, and I'm really proud of it. Like in season three, we're approaching the finale, which airs on Friday on NBC at 8:30. We are actually tackling, you know, George's mother who has borderline personality disorder.
Mm.
Um, that's something that has been, you know, the undiagnosed mental illness is prevalent in my family and in George's family as well. And so it was something that we wanted to tackle because, like, I think it's like mental health is still, you know, very taboo, like very like, you know, there's still stigma against going to therapy in our community. And to break through that. And so it was an important story for us to tell, but we were able to tell in a humorous way. It's a very heavy topic, but we were able to find the humor in it. And I'm really proud of these last two episodes of season three. And I hope that, I hope all the listeners watch, and I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much, for destigmatizing the conversations around mental health. I know Mayan is very closely affiliated with NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, as am I. I just became a board director for our local chapter in the Valley, the San Fernando Valley chapter. So thank you, so much for telling these stories around generational trauma and mental health, but also finding, the humor in it. And I love what you said about, you when you go through so much, you almost have to laugh at life and laugh at the experiences that happen to you, but then, find that healing with support and community. So, Lopez versus Lopez is one of the few networks that is led by a Latina showrunner like yourself. So I'm curious to know, talking about mental health and these discussions, what challenges have you faced in that role, and what has been the most rewarding part of it?
I think, being a showrunner, it's so funny. I was just on a female showrunner panel today, and we all have like a similar trauma of the experience. It's just very intense, because as a writer, usually like you're like either alone writing, or you're in a room writing with other writers and you're on staff and you're pitching, but then suddenly overnight when you become a showrunner, you're the CEO of a company, you're a therapist, you're head of HR, you're everything is on your shoulders. So it's a tremendous amount of pressure. On top of it being one of the few like Latino showrunners, I felt that pressure as well. But
Mhm.
I think first season was a lot of growing pains, and luckily I have some great mentors. One of my mentors is Gloria Calderon-Kellett, who I worked from One Day at a Time. So I got to watch a Latina showrunner do her thing, and do it like a boss. And so I leaned on her a lot. And Bruce Helford was also along. He's one of the executive producers on the show. He was always there for me. He always said, this is your show, Debbie. I'm here to back you up." And he's like, "And I'm here to answer any questions you have," and he was. And so there was a lot of late night calls to him, like, of me freaking out, being like, "Can I, is this how this is supposed to go?" And he'd be like, "Yep." And he would just instantly calm me down. And then second season was much better for me. Like, I feel like I came into my own and I really understood the job on so many different levels. And then season three, it just gets easier and easier as you become more comfortable in a leadership role. But it wasn't natural in the beginning, and it took time, like anything. And but I'm just so proud that I'm able to do this. And with this particular show, I'm making my dream show that I always wanted to see as a young Latina on television, and I just feel so blessed.
Yes, truly blessed and truly a trailblazer, and pivoting to the industry and career conversations. As a Latina showrunner, what advice would you give to the next generation of aspiring writers who want to break into the industry, and particularly speaking to women and people of color?
Yeah, I would say, like the passion needs to be there. You have to have like a deep, deep passion for television, for writing television, because that's what's going to get you through the journey, because it's not an easy journey. It's very unstable. Our industry is very unstable. There's going to be ups and downs, but like if you hold on to that passion and know that, this is like, and there's nothing else that you want to do. If you're excited about anything else, I would say do that. I always say that because it is not an easy road to choose. But so you got to have that passion, and then you have to do the work. The hustle is real. Like I said, I had that immigrant mentality. I worked really hard to get where I am today. I would watch television and I would break down episodes of television to see how they worked. And then I would write my own spec scripts. Like I would write I would write episodes of existing shows, and then I would write my own original material, just constantly writing, constantly applying to programs, constantly networking. So if that's my advice. It's just like you got to have that hustle and that passion in you and never give up.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And, just two more questions here that I want to touch base before we end our interview today. Now, specifically speaking about Central American cultural elements, I'm curious to know if there were any personal experiences that you got to wove into Lopez versus Lopez, whether it be season one, season two, or now even season three.
Yeah, I guess there's been so many. One episode that everyone keeps bringing up was from season one. We did like a No Sabo Kids episode about what it felt like to like, I'm a no sabo kid, Mayan is as well. And we didn't grow up speaking Spanish and we're trying to learn our adulthood and it's harder. But there's a judgment on you that you're not Latina enough if you don't speak Spanish. And so we wanted to tackle that when we were able to do that in a very humorous way. So that definitely came from personal experience. My mom's so funny. She's like, oh, well, I mean, like my mom came to this country like in the 70s, like there was like a pressure to assimilate. And I think that, in the back of her mind, she probably thought, I don't want my children to speak Spanish and it's okay if they don't, because they'll blend in. And I don't think she's conscious of that. But because now today she's like, well, you didn't want to speak Spanish. She like gaslights me. She's like, you didn't want to speak it. And I was like, I was 5 years old. Like I also didn't want to wipe my butt. Like you're supposed to put that pressure on me to speak it. And so it's so funny that today, like I'm the one who gets blamed for not speaking it. But it's all good, and we were able to sort of like to tackle that subject with a lot of humor and heart, and yeah, and there's other things we tackle. We did like an episode about cultural appropriation where Mayan makes these in season two, Mayan makes dog beds that are made out of sarape, and and it catches on, and a woman comes in. A white woman comes in and wants to like sell them as her own brand. So we were able to tackle that, and there's been other things as well, but like it's so fun when we get to like do some things that are very specific to our culture. And I always say to my room, what can we do on this show that can't be done on any other show? Like what specific thing can we tap into? And those are always my favorite episodes.
Yeah, all of that was so great. I loved and I resonated with a lot of it too, just because I too struggle with Spanish and it was my first language, but I went to school, my parents got divorced, and similar to your mother, my mother had that same mentality. And now it's like a huge regret, but so much of my experience of being a Chicana and now, being a founder of my company MíraLA, and it's a Spanish word, and my experience of being a Latina is, just as valid or enough as someone from a Hispanic background. So I think all of that is important. It's representation, and just to be specific now to Central American voices, just because I feel like a lot of them get overlooked, especially being in LA and like being so close to Mexico. So my last question to you is, what do you think needs to happen for more Central American writers, producers, and showrunners to break into the industry?
I think there just needs to be more of an encourage and more like I think it's when you see it, then you know you can be it. Like that's like a common thing people say, but it's so true. Like I didn't even know like that I could be a showrunner, I think, until I saw Gloria Calderon Kellett like do it and like really kill it. Like I didn't really believe that, as a woman, as a Latina, that I could achieve that. I just hadn't seen it before. So I'm hoping, as a Salvadorian showrunner that people can see me and see that I've achieved the success and want it for themselves. And I think I'd love there to be more encouragement in families, like to pursue the arts. Like I was very fortunate, my mom always said to me, Mija, like I came to this country for you. Like I want you to do whatever it is that, that you're passionate about. That's why I'm here. And so when I said I wanted to go to film school, there was like, there was no denial of that. But I know that, in a lot of families are like, no, you need to be a doctor, you need to be a lawyer, you need to be something stable. And, I hope that there's more families that are open to, like, if your kid wants to be an artist, encourage them to be an artist and support that. And, there's some great programs out there for diverse writers that I hope stick around. I hope don't change. But I'm a product of the NBC Launch Program, which is a great program that people can apply to. And they got me my start as a writer. And so constantly, like, I think people should look for these opportunities. And I think that's what just needs to change. I think there just needs to be more of us. And as more of us rise up the ranks, like that'll open the door for more.
Debby, muchas gracias. Thank you so much for this opportunity to allow me to interview you as you lead into your last week of season 3. So MíraLA community, please support our amazing Debby Wolfe as season 3 finale airs this Friday, February 7th at 8:30 on NBC and the next day on Peacock. Muchas gracias, Debby.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.